Alright, Bonehawks, this video is all about game plan. Coming up with a solid one and some things that might hinder you. If you can believe it, and I'm aging myself here quite a bit, this will be the 9th year that I've offered coaching and one-on-one sessions with people. And over those years, I have seen so many things that are kind of patterns and things that people kind of struggle with and kind of move them from one plateau to the other. And I wanted to share some of them with you today because I really do enjoy helping people and putting out tutorials. And I kind of got a little off of doing the tutorials there for a while I was trying to up to my own game and worked on getting Quan Chi all figured out, but here's one for you today. If there's anything that you specifically would like to see a tutorial on that you haven't seen around, let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, here are 5 things that don't necessarily, some a little bit have something to do with gameplay, but aren't necessarily focused around character, cameo, that kind of thing. They're more just kind of mental blocks that I see people get in. So that being said, let's get into it.
Accept your death.
The first one on my list is baiting / not understanding your opponent's game plan. And this is one that I get all the time, and it really gets people frustrated. And it's about seeing things from both sides. So in this example I'll give, we have Quan Chi and Smoke, and I've had a lot of people say to me, every time I try and do this, Smoke just teleports and punishes me for it. And I don't really know what to do because it feels like I can't do that move. So understanding, and this is where you got to shift your focus from doing exactly what I want to do. You have to understand what the opponent wants to do as well. So if every time I'm doing this move into this move, Smoke's reacting and punishing it with a teleport, you know, like as he should if you keep doing it. If you keep doing it and the opponent keeps doing something that works, they're going to keep doing it. So once you start to understand that game plan, you can maybe try and bait them out by doing this and then blocking. They're expecting that you're going to be doing whatever. This is a very, very common thing that I see all the time. The bait doesn't exactly register that, hey, I can just bait this. As soon as they see this, they're teleporting. Instead of just going right into this to this and then saying, well, that's not working, I don't know what to do. So usually that's something that I see a lot in footage when people send me to review is I'll say, okay, well, you're doing this into this every single time. That's quite predictable. Maybe you can do something like that to bait your opponent into a punish, and then that will make them think twice about actually doing that to the point where you can actually successfully start to do this into this again. Now you've created a mind game. So understanding, you know, when to focus on what your opponent wants to do is super duper important. So the next most common thing that I see, and I usually see this more in my opponents than I do in my students, because usually people are pretty understanding with how this aspect of the game works, is accepting that a playstyle exists and learning to play around it. So me, myself, I love zoning. I love the keep away game. That is how I prefer to play. If you ever play me in pretty much 90% of the games that I play, I'm going to be picking the keep away character. And a lot of the times I play people who will get frustrated by that. They don't like that play style, and usually it ends up leading to their demise, because instead of actually learning how this works and finding ways around it, they just kind of shrug it off as, oh, this is so cheap, this is so stupid, why would anyone play like this, that kind of thing. Instead of saying, okay, what are my options, what can I do, and actually learning how things go. Because once you start to learn, especially in this game, perhaps the zoning is not that great, but you know, I still zone out a lot of people that don't know how to get around it. So the first step to improving is understanding that something is there, and the fact just because you don't like it will not help you improve. Whatever you think about it, that's fine, but you need to understand that that's a playstyle that does exist in the game, whether you like it or not, and you have to wrap your brain around how exactly to counter that and how to practice against it. Because in all honesty, it would serve you better to do that, and then that way you could win, do your little dance, say whatever mean things you want to say on the mic, and then move on, and then you look like the better player anyways, rather than just get completely bulldogged because you didn't understand what was happening and you would rather just ignore it and move on to the next match. So I see this a lot online, and the moment that you start to say, okay, here's what he's doing here, this leads into that, and breaking everything down and understanding it, not only will it make you less salty because you're understanding exactly what's happening, you're going to start winning more games and ultimately become a better player. There you go. Accept the playstyle. The next one that I have here is playing in the moment. And this is where you start thinking about other things a little bit too much. Like, for example, I'm freaking out because I can't get my portal set up properly. Johnny Cage is just rushing me down. And because of my slow buttons, you know, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. I need to do whatever I need to do, right? And you focus too much on that you're not focusing on how to counter exactly what's in your face happening right there. You're thinking a little bit too far ahead. So you need to slow down and know that, for example, in this matchup, which is kind of opposite of the last scenario, I understand that playing Quan Chi will give me slower buttons, so I just have to hold Johnny Cage's pressure and understand how it works. And, you know, from labbing it, I know that as soon as I see the Lao hat, he'll be giving up his turn. I poke and I get out of there. And I'm just focusing on this one little moment that's happening, and then from here I can focus a little bit more on creating space so that I can do what I ultimately want to do in this matchup, which is zone, you know? Start hucking projectiles at him until he shadow kicks and makes me cry. But yeah, if you think too much about your overall game plan and you're not focusing on what's happening right exactly there on the screen right now, you're going to have a bad time. I'm telling you that right now. Just focus on the scenario. If you, for whatever reason, don't know how to get out of the scenario, make sure that you remember what's happening and ask someone who maybe plays the character that can show you, or record a replay or something, so that you can, from there, go into what we were talking about, accepting the playstyle and that, and then figuring out your own way or your own character's way out of that scenario. The next one, and this is a really important one, and I see this a lot, and I actually use this myself to try and, you know, catch people in certain scenarios, is stage awareness. They're not paying attention to where you are on the stage, or you're not paying attention to where you're leaving your opponent. So one common one that I see when I'm playing in the odd matchup where I'm getting zoned out is player will do, you know, like projectile, back up, projectile, back up. And as they're doing that, I'm being patient. I'm slowly moving my way, ducking, blocking, and eventually they've walked themselves all the way to the corner where there's no more room for them to back up, and now they're starting to panic, thinking about how can I create space. Oh my god, I didn't really expect to be here. And yeah, so then the other opponent is playing a little bit of a spacing game, being like, how can I catch you? You've cornered yourself, and now bam, now I'm in your face. I'm doing, you know, 4-3s and all that kind of stuff. You know, standard Johnny Cage things in this scenario. So being aware of where you are, and maybe before you run out of space, like if you want to do this game plan, before you run out of space, that's when you kind of start to close the gap, where you do have a little bit of space to play behind you as well, and then just find a way to switch sides, and then start going the other way, and just being aware of where you are on the stage at all times. So let's look at this from the other scenario, from, let's say, if you're Johnny Cage trying to rush down Quan Chi kind of thing. So you're going through, and you finally got Quan Chi cornered. He's been zoning you, he's been very annoying the whole time, and you can't really open him up. You're doing your pressure, you're doing as best you can. He keeps teching your forward throws, so you're kind of like, well, screw it. Backwards throw it is. Now you've taken him out of the corner and put him mid-screen to run all the way across the screen back to the other one to get away from you. So that's one example of not really playing the stage appropriately. Another scenario that you might have is by trying to catch up and using a move that pushes the opponent away. And yeah, you've accidentally created a little bit more space than you really wanted to. Now, character's still free to move around when maybe you were pressuring, boom, boom. This probably isn't a scenario that would happen. I'm just using this as an example. Now you're doing this, and then boom, boom. Shadow kick. You were just in their face, just had the pressure, and then you used a move that pushed them away. Again, probably wouldn't see this in this particular scenario, but this is something just to be aware of where your moves end, and where your opponent will be when that's over. Quick example from Quan Chi in a similar kind of thing. Say he catches a combo, does something like this, ends it with this. Boom. So we have put Johnny Cage at a little bit of a distance away from us, but ideally, at least the way that I play, I want him to be as far away from us as he can with as much hit advantage as we can. So we change it up a little bit, using a little bit of a different ender. We created our distance, and without sacrificing very much damage at all, and we can get back to our current game plan. So I see this often in times where a certain ender will get you just a little bit more damage. But you need to remember that having the screen control, it can be just as much, and with 1 or 2 projectiles in this particular example, Quan Chi can make up that damage that he lost in that combo while doing it in a safe way. So sometimes you have to know when to prioritize the stage over the damage. And the very last thing I see that holds a lot of people back is letting their emotions take over a little bit too much. And in this aspect, I will say that a lot of the times I see people get salty and they will play just completely different than they normally will. Like their game plan is out the window. They're angry that so-and-so is zoning. They're angry that their character doesn't have fast enough moves to counter. Something is getting them upset to the point where it's affecting their gameplay and they start to play irrationally because of it. And I find personally, I have a lot of experience, so I mean, experience is always just part of, you know, getting over these things, but I still do play emotionally myself, I find quite a bit. Most of the time, it's usually when outside things are interfering. Like, I don't really get salty unless I'm playing in like a super laggy match or something from outside my control has caused me to lose. That's when I get upset. But what I find helps me is it's kind of a tip that I mentioned earlier, is to play in the moment. Like, you can't get too overwhelmed by the fact that you're down to last 100 health and you have to make a 600 health comeback. Like, you need to understand what is happening in the moment, what's the reality that we need to do, and do it. If you think about too many things like, oh, I dropped 3 combos and now he's pressuring me and now I'm gonna lose the round and that kind of a thing. Or maybe you're a round down, and I always like to think of it as I just need 1 round. I just need 1 round, or I just need 1 hit, depending on the scenario. At the start of a match where we're both even health, I usually just say, okay, I just need 1 hit. That's all I need. I just need 1 hit. Then when it comes down to, you know, I'm maybe lower health, I try to change that to I just need a round. That's all I need, is just 1 round. Because if I think of it like playing a 1st to 3 set and I'm down 2-0, I just need 1 more round to stick into it. If I get too salty or too emotional or too disappointed, that kind of a thing, probably not going to play my best. So I just need to set myself a goal, and the goalpost is going to change as the match goes on. And I find that really, really helps me to play a little bit less emotionally. And to be honest, all the tips in this will kind of lead back to this in some aspect or another. As long as you can break your gameplay down like that, you have a huge advantage there already. Because if you can control yourself better than the opponent control themselves, that's a huge advantage in and of itself right there. So I would say that's probably the most important thing on this list, with all the others kind of contributing to helping you avoid playing too emotionally. And that's it. That's 5 things that I see all the time that are holding people back, that have very, very little to do with gameplay and more to do with mentality and focus and all that kind of thing. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're someone that's looking for some one-on-one help, I do offer lessons through the top tier in our Patreon. Link will be at the end of this video or in the description down below. I love helping. I love making tutorials and passing on knowledge. You know, like some of you may know, that's a value that my mom gave me. So just here to help, and I want to see you succeed. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, because it really helps me out, and subscribe if you haven't, because we make new videos almost every single day. Hashtag Bonehawks, all that stuff, and we'll see all you Bonehawks in the next video.
Accept your death.